All right, welcome to ICS 200, Lesson 7, Transfer of Command. In this lesson, we'll cover what happens when incident command changes hands during a response. Whether the incident grows, shifts, or lasts multiple shifts, transferring command is common, and when it's done right, it keeps everyone safer and more organized. So as a responder, you might not be the one transferring command, but you'll absolutely feel the impact if it's not done well. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe the process of transferring command, list the key elements of proper briefing when command changes. Knowing these basics ensures that you don't miss critical updates, especially during long incidents or shift transitions. Transfer of command means the responsibility for the incident passes from one incident commander to another. This could be a planned shift change, a more qualified person arrives, or a change in the agency that's actually in charge and overseeing the operation. It's more than just a handshake and a goodbye. It's a formal process to maintain control. So here are some reasons command might transfer. First, new agency takes over. By law, federal authorities come in, etc., etc. The situation becomes more complex, or the original IC is fatigued and his shift has ended, and a new chief or associate chief or battalion chief has come on shift, a scheduled operation period ends, or the IC could have a personal emergency, or an executive like the mayor orders these things to change. All of these reasons why a command might transfer. So let's pause and think about this discussion question for a second. If a more qualified person arrives on scene, does this mean a change in incident must occur? Why or why not? Pause here if you need a second to think about the answer. The answer is no. They may take over, but they also may choose to observe or recommend somebody else. The key is that transfer must be clear and intentional, not just assumed. It's not a requirement. If the person, as the IC, is doing a great job, they may be left to manage their spot for a while. So here's how these things might go down in the field. You're part of a EMS crew at a structure fire, and the IC is a local captain. The battalion chief arrives finally, more qualified, yes, but it doesn't mean command changes unless it's formally agreed to. Sometimes a more experienced person will monitor and assist instead of taking over, and I've seen battalion chiefs do that in a variety of times and variety of incidents. ICS gives us a step-by-step process for handing off command with minimal disruption. Whenever possible, handing off command should happen face-to-face, provide a full situational briefing. It should be documented at what time and date the change occurred, and everyone on scene needs to be notified. This keeps field teams like EMS and fire on the same page, and it avoids duplicated or missed assignments, or thinking that they're waiting for an assignment from a specific person who's no longer in command. So now let's think about this. What would you include in a transfer of command? If you're not sure yet, don't worry. That's what we're about to cover next. But if you have a second, pause the video and write down a couple things. So here's what's included in a proper transfer of command briefing. First, current situation status, incident objectives and priorities, current ICS organization, resource assignments, safety concerns, communications plans, incident maps and layouts, and any other sensitive issues like media, politics, etc. This ensures the new incident commander has everything needed to lead without missing a beat. We have our incident briefing forms, which we talked about, ICS Form 201. This form is your go-to tool for transferring command because it includes a map of the incident, objectives and key decisions, as well as current resources and organization. The initial IC should fill this out and use it for the face-to-face briefing. Even if you're not the IC, ask your team leader if they've reviewed the 201 before you start operations. Every transfer of command should be documented in writing, time-stamped, and shared with the entire response organization. Why? Because field crews need to know who's in charge, especially if you're responding across multiple operation periods, multiple jurisdictions with multiple agencies. So, a little activity for the end of this video. You're taking over as incident commander during a flooding response. The water is rising, and you're relieving the previous IC at 1800 hours. What should they tell you? What would you want to know before you take charge? So make a quick little checklist or share your answers in the comments. Pause here until you're ready, and then we'll move on. So let's review. Command transfer is a structured process, not just a switch in name. ICS Form 201 helps guide that transition with resources and objectives and other things that are critical for the incoming person to understand. Clear briefing and documentation make sure field operations stay safe and coordinated. Even if you're not in command, understanding this process helps you ask the right questions and stay aligned. In our final lesson, we'll take everything you've learned and apply it to a real-world scenario. You'll step into the role of an on-scene supervisor during a major public event that takes a turn for the worse. So, start to think about that. For now, discussion question in the comments. Have you ever been a part of a situation on a call or drill or even at a job where leadership changed mid-task? Tell me what went well, what went wrong. Let us know in the comments. Your story might help others think through how to handle their situation or their command transitions in the field. Thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can. If you found the video useful, it helps us out a lot as we're trying to rebuild this entire channel, updating all of our videos all at once. We really appreciate it. See you in the next video.